And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Money Mondays with Purse Strings. My name is Maggie, and today I am here with another great Maggie, Maggie Koosa. So welcome.
How you doing?
Today Purse Strings is always here to provide free financial education, but we know education only takes you so far, and then you need a professional kind of to wrap things up and get them in place. So we have Purse Strings approved professionals who know how to really reach, engage, and earn the female dollar, know how to work with you. And Maggie is one of those wonderful professionals. You can check them all out on our site, pursestrings.co. But today we are here with Maggie, and we're talking about tax strategy going into retirement. Which is great for this group of our 50 plus and fabulous women. So before we get started, Maggie, will you just give a quick introduction of who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Wow, that's a mouthful. All right, so Maggie Koosa, I'm a financial advisor. I own my own firm. I'm licensed in all 50 states. I help my people, because I don't have clients, I have people. I help my people do the very best that they can with the finances that they have going on and to make better choices and act more purposefully with our dollar.
Love it. Love it. Great stuff. Great stuff. So we're so excited to have you on today, and we're going to be talking about tax strategy. I think with that, we could just jump in and get it going.
Sounds good.
I'll pull up the slides, and if anyone has questions along the way, please pop them in the chat. Let's get this here. There you go.
Okay, so thank you guys for attending. I appreciate other people enjoying the topic of tax strategies. So I always tell my people do not plan to fail. They fail to plan. So with that said, let's go into it. So what is a tax strategy? So a lot of people think that, you go to a financial advisor, you get like a financial plan. It's like an 80-page document. They never read it, and they kind of want their person to kind of glance over it. Well, tax strategy has to be part of that. And so I always encourage my people, you got to work with a CPA. Some people go to like H&R Block. I normally encourage people to go to a CPA because the CPA does taxes 24/7, 7 days a week, 365. And that's what you need. You need an expert because there's a lot of stuff going on with tax law. So it's a plan of action for reducing taxes. I like my CPAs to be on the straight and narrow, but I want them to be aggressive with the tax law. And when I say that, that means I want them to keep me obviously paying what I should be paying ethically. Morally, I'm a citizen of this country. I benefit from a number of things like I need to be pitching in, and legally. However, I do not want to have to pay more than I absolutely have to. And so that's where the tax strategy comes in. Some of the strategies you may have heard of. People are always like, well, I need to reduce my taxable income. You contribute more to retirement. Take a look at your deductions. See what you can do there. Contribute to what's called the HSA or an FSA. You can set aside college money for the tiny humans. You can even take a look at harvesting investment loss. We're going to go into each of these. The last one you may or may not have heard of because a lot of people are like, no, I don't want any losses. Well, they do happen. And so when they do, you kind of want to use it to your advantage. And this is one of the ways you can do it. So let's unpack these. Reduce your taxable income. I know that sounds terrible. I know everyone wants to be earning more. I want to get more of a raise. I want this. I want that. It doesn't mean that you are going to earn less. It means that you have to claim less taxable income. Okay, so this can be accomplished. So let's say you earn $100,000 in a year. Well, if you contribute $19,500 to your 401k, you have closer to $80,000 a year in income. That can make a difference when you are going to start beating down what is actually counted as taxable income. You might end up with $60,000 being taxed, and that's far less than $100,000. Contributing to HSAs, FSAs, tax loss harvesting. So these all of this, the HSAs and the FSAs, they all come out pre-tax. You don't pay Social Security on them. You don't pay federal or state taxes on it. It's great. And you set it aside for when you need income, when you need, I should say, dollars to pay for medical expenses. Okay. So if it may or may not fit your situation, but more often than not, when my people get up to 50, 55, they or their spouse or their partner may run into medical issues, and you may need some money to put towards that so you don't have to take it out of pocket. Tax loss harvesting, you can do that on your 401k as well. Let's go back there. And being mindful of timing expenses. So for example, if you own a business and you talk to your accountant, which you should do a couple times a year, you talk to your accountant and say, hey, I run a construction business. I need to buy a truck. You had a really good year this year because everybody is hiring construction people. So should you have the expense this year or next year? Well, I need to buy a whole new, computer system. Should I do it this year or next year? Do I think next year I'm going to earn more money, so I should write off the expense? These are conversations that you can have and that I have with my people all the time with your CPA or your financial advisor. Okay, contributing to retirement. So I have a number of people who try to max out what they can do in their retirement. So depending on what you do for your income, it looks very different. So all of these things, 401k, 403b, 457, these are all pieces of tax code. So when I say 401k, that means section 401 and subsection K of the tax code. Okay, so depending on who you work for, if you work for yourself, that's a different animal. And if your employer flat out doesn't offer you retirement, when we are looking at this, depending on what we have available, depending on our cash flow, we may or may not be able to max out what we're looking for. Cash flow we discussed a couple weeks ago, and a number of people are like, well, I can't save more than I am right now. And I always say, well, looking at what you have going on, you may or may not be able to retire the way you want to. You might not be able to retire when you want to. It makes a difference. So you may want to adjust your cash flow so that you can put away more. Now, the good thing is on some of these, let's say you max it out every year. You put 19.5 grand into your 401k. There are some 401ks, if something happens and you need access to some of that money, you might be able to take out a loan. So it's not like it's gone forever, but they make it hard to access it because the government, although you question them on some things, I agree with them on this, make it hard for people to touch this money because they need it for retirement. I always tell my people, you're not saving money. You're postponing spending of that money. And in this case, you're postponing spending of that money and it's cutting down on your taxable income. So let's take a look. How much can we contribute? A lot of people don't realize this sometimes changes every single year. So for your reference, you can take a look at this because I know Maggie's going to send out a copy of this presentation. So you guys will have this. But depending on what you're doing, a lot of these are the same, 19.5, and so on. 457, if you work for the government, they do allow you sometimes to catch up additionally. I don't know if this pertains to any of you, but a number of people raising tiny humans and taking care of the house, they don't really start saving until their 40s, which I always tell young people, you want to start saving immediately because you want to get as much money put away as possible. But if you haven't, you're allowed to do catch up. So this, like 457, you could put in $26,000 out of your income a year. So if you've taken, up until age 50, 55, and you've paid off the mortgage and you're in a good situation cash flow wise, and you can afford to do that, I encourage you to do that. Putting that kind of money away, your future self will thank you for it. As I said, self-employed, so simple and SEPs, that is a beast of its own. I would love to have a conversation with you about it. They're fairly easy. You could set them up by yourself, and the limits are fairly good. Traditional or Roth IRAs. If you only do a traditional or a Roth IRA, and that is your only savings for retirement, I'm going to encourage you to start saving in a different manner on top of doing this, because saving $6,000 or $7,000 a year is not going to get you to the retirement that you want or deserve. So I always tell people, I'm like, that's great that you're putting $6,000 away, but how else are you saving? Because that's not going to be enough money. So keep that in mind while you're saving. There are tons of ways you could save and supplement your retirement. Okay, increased tax deductions. As I said before, with the ever-changing tax laws, deductions have changed. There are some things that it has to be a certain amount in order to write it off and that sort of thing. So I want to say mortgage interest, things have shifted on that. But a number of these are possibly things that your CPA has not asked you about. So I always tell my people, if you're happy with your CPA, that's great. I'm glad you're comfortable with them. And I always say, do they ask you questions? If they do not ask you questions, you may consider going to a different CPA. Because if you're literally just giving them your 1040 and any 1099s or other tax forms that you've gotten, and they're literally just giving you back a very simple tax return, you may or may not be getting money back. You can do that on your own using TurboTax or anything like that. CPAs earn their money by helping you save money, or limiting the taxes, or maximizing what you're getting back. Okay, so if they're not asking you questions, that to me is a red flag. If you are not comfortable asking them questions, that to me is a red flag. It's very similar to a financial advisor. If you're not comfortable, you're not going to do the very best you can. It's sort of like going to the doctor and, oh, my belly hurts or whatever, but I'm not going to say anything to the doctor because, I don't really trust them or whatever. Well, if your belly hurts and you don't get help, you're actually hurting yourself by not getting help. So you need to find a doctor you're comfortable with saying, hey, doc, yeah, my belly hurts. It hurts when I eat this, that, or the other thing. Are very similar. There's so many things going on. And if you're a business owner, or if you have investment properties, or if you have multiple things going on, your situation is a little bit more complicated. They need to know more information, and they can give you kind of a heads up. Hey, have you thought about, making, some charitable contributions? That might help. Or, did you put as much as you could put in for retirement this year? Have you thought about, adding a little bit extra towards the end of the year? A lot of people who are self-employed don't understand that they can write off their healthcare. If you don't have a CPA that is actively working with you to help you understand how you can improve your tax situation, you may not know that. So it's important. You have to ask questions and they have to ask questions. It's a two-way street. Okay. A lot of people have no idea what these are. This is good so that we can inform you. 80% of my job is education. So FSA, Flexible Savings Account. This, as I said before, both of these are for out-of-pocket expenses, healthcare expenses, qualified healthcare expenses. So there are some differences. In an FSA, your funds are available immediately upon enrollment. I believe they are as well for the HSA. For 2021, that you have a contribution limit of $2,750. Cool. Your employer may or may not contribute. It depends. But what's awesome is if you say, hey, I'm going to put aside $2,400 for the year and I'm going to put in $200 a month. March, you end up with something that you have to pay $1,500 out of pocket. Your admin will actually pay the claim as you're continuing to pay into the system. And so they are banking on the fact that you are having that $200 taken out every single month so that you can replenish the balance. Caveat on this one: if you don't use it, you lose it. So we got to be careful with this. So a lot of people, they'll put, let's say $2,750 in. If you have no medical issues, right? You just go to the doctor, you get a checkup. I have my teeth cleaned. Like, you don't have anything going on. You may not want to use an FSA for the mere fact that if you don't use it, you lose it. So I have one of my people. She's 55. She has a disabled spouse. He has medical issues that he needs ongoing medical care. She maxes out both of these because they constantly have out-of-pocket expenses. As I said, it does have, like, you don't have to pay taxes on her Social Security or anything like that. And that's money that, again, your employer may add to, but you can use for that out-of-pocket expenses instead of getting taxed on your entire paycheck and then using your checking and using your savings to pay that medical expenses. So unlike an FSA, HSA, the funds are portable, which means if you leave your employer, you can just take those funds with you and roll them into a new HSA. You can establish this by yourself. You don't need an employer to do it, which is great because some employers don't offer it. So if they don't offer it, sort of like the traditional IRA or a Roth, you can just establish it on your own and contribute. You're allowed to roll over unused funds. So unlike the FSA, where if you don't use it, you lose it, I encourage everyone to do an HSA because sooner or later you're going to run into, you break an ankle or you need a root canal or something and you need $5,000. Again, you don't want to take it out of your checking and savings. Okay. So if we have this is portable. So even if you change jobs, you go with it, you can roll it over. So you accumulate money in this. It's not a bad thing. They also have investment options with it. So it's fine. So in order to qualify for an HSA, obviously you cannot be somebody else's dependent. If somebody else, claims you're on their tax form. So like 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, even 20-year-olds, if you have a tiny human who's going to college and you still claim them on your taxes, they can't do this. You can't be enrolled in Medicare. So obviously when you retire and you enroll in Medicare, you're not going to be able to have an HSA. And you have to be covered under a high deductible health plan. It depends on how you have your stuff set up. A lot of people are like, well, I'm healthy. I want to pay less for my medical, and therefore my deductible is going to be $10,000. That's good and bad. If you're healthy and you don't really need it, cool. You're paying less for your medical insurance. However, if something happens, so for example, my brother has tiny humans. They play sports. One of the tiny humans slid into second base and busted his hand. He needed specialized surgery for it. It cost him like $15,000. Well, he has one of these high deductible health plans. They had to pay $12,000 out of pocket to cover their donut hole, to cover the deductible in order for the insurance to pick up the other $3,000. Not many people have $12,000 hanging out. So HSAs, this is particularly helpful for people who have high deductibles because, again, you can save money, get tax advantages for it, and not have to worry about really large expenses because you have this money sitting in the account and you can use that money to cover the deductible, which is fantastic. So there is a contribution limit for this as well. It's $3,600 or $72 for a family. So as I said, I happen to like this better because it's portable and because you can roll over money. I'm not a fan of high deductible health plans, especially as people get older, because they have medical issues, having to pay a huge chunk before insurance picks it up can be problematic. But if you have money saved specifically for this, then it's not a big deal. Moving on. Funding education for tiny humans. Okay, so these contributions are not deductible, okay, federally. They may be deductible on your state return. Now, the thing is, you guys may not know this, but when you're saving in a 529 plan, all 529 plans are not created equal. There are some states that have awesome investment options. Contrary to that, there are some states that have horrific investment options. Just because you live in Rhode Island or in Texas, you could have an Alaska 529 plan. You can do that. Your financial advisor can set it up for you. You can set it up for you. So if you invest in your state's 529 plan, then it does have, you can deduct some of it or all of it on your state taxes. Again, work with a CPA. What's awesome about a 529, earnings grow tax-free. They won't be taxed as long as you withdraw them for a qualifying expense. Okay. Now, there are no contribution limits. However, 2021, and again, this changes every year, an individual can give up to 15 grand per beneficiary. So if my parents feel the need to give my 3 tiny humans money for college, they can do 15,000 each or 30,000 each because my mom and dad will give. If they give more than 15 grand, then they're going to have to deal with the federal gift tax. But again, they can work with their CPA on it. Tax harvesting. I love discussing tax harvesting. I try never to lose money for my people. I think it's a bad practice as an investment person to lose money for your people. However, market goes up and down, as I'm sure you guys are aware. So what are we doing when we're harvesting? We're taking advantage, right? So when I take a look, so I'm balancing a portfolio earlier today, and it's a non-qualified. So I need to be careful how you sell and what you sell and in what order. And I take a look at, well, they just asked for $3,500 for a roof. Okay, cool. Have that done. I want to take advantage of any losses that they have going on because that way they're not hit with capital gains towards the end of the year. If they get a 1099 showing that they have losses, if I've sold investments that have depreciated or that have gone down, that can offset capital gains and it can also offset any other taxable income that we have going on, right? So a lot of people set it and forget it in regards to the allocations. If we harvest losses, you can rebalance your portfolio, take advantage of some of the losses. I have some funds that have done really well, some funds that got hit for a variety of reasons. We can rebalance the portfolio and take care of the capital gains and potentially offset, as it says, $3,000 of other taxable income. If we have to deal with our investments going down, or at least some of them going down, at least we can use it towards something. Try to make lemonade out of lemons. So things you may not know. Contrary to popular belief, what you don't know can and will hurt you. And that is specific in my field. I find that a number of my people prior to working with me were concerned about asking questions. They didn't know who to trust. I mean, how do you find a financial advisor or a CPA? You can't really look them up in the white pages or the yellow pages. Silly us, they don't exist anymore. And it's hard. I mean, you're constantly bombarded with marketing. So who are you supposed to trust? And if I don't know if I can trust someone, then how am I supposed to ask questions? I don't want to look stupid because if I look stupid, somebody's going to try to take advantage of me. Okay. Asking questions is a sign of intelligence. You have to ask questions, but you also, it's hard because you want to ask questions of somebody you trust. Okay. So having said that, every penny withdrawn from any retirement account besides Roths is taxable. Every penny. It's not, hey, I retired, I'm good to go now. Nope. You tax deferred that money. Tax deferred just means, hey, you waited to pay the taxes and your tax bill grows. As that account grows, Uncle Sam, the US government, their portion grows as well, especially as taxes are going up. So we need to be mindful because taxes are going to go up. our tax bill is going to go up. Your overall taxable income impacts how much tax you will pay on Social Security. Yes, a portion of your Social Security is taxed. Yes, it is. So it depends on your overall income as to how much that is going to be taxed. And Medicare, how much you earn is going to impact how much of your Social Security they take for Medicare. It absolutely impacts it. So I have a number of people who are like, well, I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that after I retire and this. And I always caution them, you want to be careful because that's going to impact Social Security and Medicare. And so many people are shocked by it. What do you mean? Well, you're going to have this extra income or a rental income or whatever it may be, or I'm going to cash out, 50 grand out of my 401k. Well, just a heads up. Yes, you're going to pay taxes on it, but it's also going to impact Social Security and Medicare. A lot of people don't realize that. You got to plan ahead. Medicare does not cover long-term care costs. It doesn't. I have a Medicare specialist. I'm licensed for it, but there's way too many moving parts. I want my people to have the best, so I get a specialist for it. It doesn't cover long-term care. It covers hospital stuff. It covers 1 or 2 nights in like a recovery type scenario, but long-term care in general, it does not cover. If you do not designate beneficiaries on every financial account, then despite what you may have written in your will, your stuff is going into probate, which is going to cause your beneficiaries, whoever you want to get your stuff, to have to pay taxes and fees and whatnot. So we have to be mindful of that. So if you do designate beneficiaries, something else that you should be mindful of is the fact that if you have $1 million 401k and you pass and you have 4 kids, but your eldest is going to handle your stuff. And so you leave the eldest 100% of your stuff. So they take the 401k, they take the IRA, all of it. And let's say it totals $1 million. They have to pay taxes on the whole kit and caboodle within 6 months of you passing. Or they might be able to take RMDs for the remainder of their life based on their life expectancy. Either way, you are massively impacting their taxable income. Massively. Even if you're like, well, no, Mag. I'm giving it to him, but he's going to divvy it up. The government does not care. He or she got the check, period. It doesn't matter what they do with it after that. The tax consequences are hung around that particular person's neck. If you have $1 million 401k or a $100,000 401k or IRA, you have 4 tiny humans, preferably above the age of 18, because the government and judges seem to frown on cutting a 6-year-old $100,000 check. But let's say they're all grown and you want to make them the beneficiaries. If you're going to pass on your IRA or 401k, please designate every child. That way it kind of spreads out the hurt. And then after that, they can all pitch in for any expenses or anything that needs to be taken care of, but at least the tax bill is spread out. Okay. Having said that, paying taxes is inevitable. Everybody has to do it. However, depending on how you save and how you manage your tax strategy, you can greatly reduce and or eliminate taxes during retirement. So as I said, we can choose when we're going to pay the taxes. On our income, we can save it and put it in a tax deferred where it grows and our tax bill grows, or we can do other things with it, handle the taxes right off the bat and not have that tax bill growing. Okay. So David McKnight, The Power of Zero. And this is a book that I will give to anyone who wants to have a conversation with me about it and about their situation, which is not going to cost you anything. It's a conversation, but this book is phenomenal and I will give it to you. If we schedule a conversation, I'll give it to you because it's an awesome book. So I'm actually working with a number of my people to eliminate them paying taxes in retirement. We're investing in a variety of different things, right? It takes strategy. It takes preparation. It's not something, hey, Mag, I'm retiring next year. Get me out of paying taxes in retirement. It takes some time. It takes some preparation. And it takes strategies like life insurance, for example. We'll get to that in a few. Okay, so buckets of taxation. I love my buckets of taxation. So we have 3 buckets. I made tax deferred the red one because that is the greatest concern I have, is the red one. That is the I owe taxes on every single penny as soon as I take it out of the bucket. And I showed you examples of what type of accounts you're going to get taxed on, okay, which is all your retirement stuff. And this is what we've been taught to do, right? Put as much money as possible into this bucket. I will get to it in a minute why we want to rethink that strategy. So taxable, I will pay taxes on the principal once and then every penny of growth. So it's very similar to I get my paycheck. Cool. I have all sorts of stuff taken out, but that money that I get in my bank account, I've already paid taxes on. So whether it grows in my savings account or in a money market, or I invested in a non-qualified account like an individual account or joint tenants, I will pay taxes on the growth, and that's it. I'll get a 1099 at the end of the year. Tax-free, this is my favorite bucket. I wish this were the biggest bucket. Tax-free, I will pay money on the principal once. As I said, money in my bank account after my taxes and stuff are taken out, then never pay tax on another dime, ever. So tax laws may change, right? So this may not be around forever, but I don't believe Congress is going to touch any of these because they're benefiting too much from it. And cash value life insurance is actually in the tax code, right? So let's discuss this further. All right. So one bucket should be bigger than the rest. Your tax-free bucket should be bigger than the rest. So back in the day, it used to be that a household's biggest asset was their house. Used to be, right? They'd have some money in savings, but the house, that was the big thing. It's not that way anymore. And I'm sure you guys understand that. The house, okay, fine, whatever. But so many people, I want to pay off the house. I want to be debt-free. I don't want a mortgage. In retirement, they want to downsize, and they're just hell-bent on packing as much money as they can into their retirements, which, again, is what we've been taught to do. But this is how we've always done it. I tell my people all the time, these are the 7 most expensive words in the history of the world. Because just because we've done it up to this point does not mean that it's going to end up giving us the results that we want. We don't want to have a giant tax bill in retirement. But if you think about it, your parents, your grandparents, they didn't live into their 90s or 100s, possibly. My grandparents and their parents passed away in their 60s and 70s. That's just the way that went. So it didn't matter that they didn't have a ton saved up. However, if we retire at 62 or 65 and we live to be octogenarians, which is 80s and 90s, that's 30 years of not working, which sounds awesome recreationally. However, it does not sound awesome if you are unsure about your cash flow, if you're unsure if your money is enough or it's going to last. So what we want to do is we want to have, as I have over here, we want to have these 3 buckets. This one, the tax-free one, should be the largest bucket. Taxable, we want, I'm sure that you've heard this. Oh, you should have 6 to 12 months of expenses in like savings or whatever. That's the only money really that you should have in your taxable account. Because again, you're going to be taxed on it every single year. Every piece of growth, every year, you're going to get taxed on. So if we want to absolutely handle our taxes, we have to keep this bucket. down. I always tell my people, you need 6 to 12 months of income, because expenses is one thing, but I want 6 to 12 months of income, because if you earn $4,000 and you spend $3,000 every month, I'd rather the $4,000. I would rather have access to the $4,000 than the $3,000. So save 6 to 12 months of income and put it in your taxable account. It could be in savings. It could be, some of it could be invested. It could be any number of things. One caveat, please, please, please check out the different banks that you have access to, because not all banks are created equal, and paying 0.01% of interest versus 1.25% of interest is huge. And tax deferred should be the smallest bucket, but oftentimes it's the largest. Tax-free bucket would be the bucket that gives you the most freedom, because you don't have to take money out of it. In your qualified accounts, you're going to have to take RMDs. Okay, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Let's work the problem. A lot of people are like, well, I don't have an endless supply of money, Mag, so how exactly am I going to do this? Well, if you could get life insurance and retirement all in one, and long-term care all in one, I'm a fan. That's one investment you have to make every month. One, not like 4. So a lot of people don't realize this. And actually, Mr. McKnight in The Power of Zero discusses this a little bit, but it's worth exploring. It can help you with a variety of different things, because it can accumulate a bucket of money. It costs just as much as the average managed account, which is like 1.2%. Actually, a managed account sometimes averages more like 1.5, although I don't charge that. It can help you fund retirement, education. You can establish long-term care coverage, and there are no restrictions. So unlike your retirement stuff, you're restricted in how much you put into it. Unlike your, let's say your Roth, if you earn over a certain amount, you're not allowed to contribute to your Roth IRA, which is frustrating, because it's an awesome tax saving tool and it's very efficient. But if you make too much money, the government says, no, you're denied. Although there are ways around that, and we can always discuss that. Sort of like the Roth 401k. So explore all options. I don't know why my image is eating part of my word. I apologize for that. All right. So homework for you. These are questions that you really ought to ask yourself and discuss, and ask other people. How much have you saved that's tax deferred? You need to seriously take a look at, oh, okay, I'm going to owe taxes on all of this. So if you have $1 million 401k, you don't have $1 million, kids. You have more like $650,000. There's a huge difference. How much have you saved that's taxable? I have some people who have $350,000 in their savings account, and I shake my finger at them, because they're paying taxes on, granted, it's in a savings account, so it doesn't earn that much, but they're paying taxes on that growth every year, and it's not keeping up with inflation. How much have you saved that's tax-free? So many of my people prior to working with me answered, what do you mean tax-free? I don't have anything that's tax-free. Everything's going to be taxed. Doesn't have to be that way, kids. Does not have to be that way. When was the last time you reviewed your allocations? So as we talked about tax harvesting and tax losses, a lot of times people set it and forget it, and your accounts are way out of whack because they haven't been rebalanced. You got to check your allocations. I would say at least once, twice, 3 times a year. How much are you currently contributing? Are you one of those people that pays $50 a paycheck? If you do, that's about $1,200 a year. It's not enough. Not enough. I would suggest at least like 3%. If your company matches you, take advantage of that match. But you should steadily increase what you have going on. So if you get a raise 3% every year, you can have it auto increase your retirement by 1%. You won't even feel it, and you'll be saving more and more for retirement. Are you working with a CPA? Are you working with a financial advisor? If you have not, guys, you have to ask around. Hey, do you have a good financial advisor? How do you like your CPA? How do they treat you? Do you ask questions? Do they get back to you? Does your financial advisor get back to you? When the market drops, are you able to reach your financial advisor, or are they hiding under their desk? It makes a difference. Have you explored all your options available through your employer? I would guess a number of you have employers that offer life insurance. Did you know that? Have you maxed it out? Did you get it on your spouse? Have you maxed out your disability? Do you even have that? Does your employer offer long-term care insurance? These are all things that, do they have an HSA, an FSA? These are all things that a lot of people are like, I don't know. Well, you got to ask. Do you have life insurance? I've had so many people, I ask them, do you have life insurance? Well, yes. Cool. What kind? Well, I don't know. Well, how much is it for? I don't know. Oh, okay. Does it expire? I don't know. Who are your beneficiaries? I think my wife. Well, maybe my mom. Kids, we need to be mindful of that. When something happens, that is not the time to try to get organized. Now is the time to get organized. Life happens when you least expect it. Okay, as the year ends, so I'll be done in about 15 seconds. These are things that you should take a look at towards the end of the year. So you want to check your tax withholding. If you ended up owing taxes, you're not having enough taken out. So you can consult HR, you can consult your CPA. You want to make sure that you have enough taken out. Consider paying bills. We discussed this before. Expenses. Do you want to pay them this year? Do you want to wait till next year? What would be more beneficial? Review your capital gains distributions. Can you harvest any investment losses? Did you max out your retirement contributions? Donor advised funds. We can have another conversation about that, but a number of people want to increase their charitable contributions, and they can actually invest in a donor advised fund where you have somebody handle the money, invest it to make more money, and you can ask them to donate it to designated charities that you pick, hence the donor advised fund. Touch base with your CPA. Have them have a conversation with your financial advisor. If you don't have one or the other, you may want to ask one that you do have, or ask around and find good ones. You got to ask and interview them and read more in 2022. You can always reach out to me. I recommend and send books to my people all the time. It's important. Knowledge is power. Ignorance is not bliss. You got to know what's going on with your money, even if you don't want to get in the weeds. So, as I said before, if you have any specific concerns, want to explore your situation, reach out to me. You schedule time to chat and would like a copy of this book, I will send it to you. So, Maggie, I am all set.
Awesome. That was wonderful. So thorough. Even Joanne was on here talking about how interesting it was, which was great.
Fantastic.
I do just want to highlight the one huge point that you had throughout is you need a financial team. It's not just an FA. It's not just this or that. You talked about a CPA. You talked about a financial advisor. You talked about a Medicare expert. And so that's one of the things we try to tell a lot of our women out there is that you need a whole financial team on your side. It's not just one. And so, you are a sunny girl.
I have a window right in front of me.
But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that again, just because, it is very important. We do have all these professionals at Purse Strings or pursestrings.co in case you need somebody to work with. But I think that was just super thorough. So I don't really have much more to say. I think it was great. Super interesting.
Hit me with something, Maggie. Ask me questions.
Okay. What? You want me to
questions? Challenge me.
Oh, okay. So should you be looking at what income range should you start having to really be looking at this information? Like every single year? Or like
all of it? No, seriously, all of it. Because I work with people who I have 21-year-olds. Because honestly, you can't just You can't get a financial advisor when you're 50, 55 with $1 million 401k. And I'll tell you why. Because every financial advisor would want to work with you at this point. Hey, you have $1 million? Sure, come on over. You hear all the time, investment minimums. You want to work with a financial team that as you're building yourself up, they're willing to work with you. If you have a financial advisor and a CPA who's willing to work with you when you're only earning 50 grand a year and you're going to be earning more, even 30 grand a year, as long as you're going to be making, you want to make better financial choices, you should be working with a team. I don't charge. I mean, there are a number of people that I don't charge because I know I'm like, well, you're kind of building right now. I don't charge like assets under management under 15 grand. Guys, you're trying to snowball this. Paying fees is not going to help. So I have a number of people who I started with like 5-10 years ago, and they're absolutely taking off right now. And I was there from the beginning. I'm so proud of them. They're like children.
You're investing in them, kind of.
It's from parents. So I'm working with their parents, and they're like, well, so you need to work with them or whatever. And I started meeting with them in college, and it just took off. But you need somebody to guide you. I mean, how are you going to do that on your own? I didn't have a whole lot of financial education growing up. My parents were teachers. They lived paycheck to paycheck. A lot of this, I read. A lot of this is on my own. So I try to help as many people as possible. But you need to find a CPA and a financial advisor, and not necessarily Medicare, especially if you're younger, but like an attorney. If you have tiny humans, you need life insurance and you need a will. Yep. Get an attorney. And it might only be a couple $100, but if you're working with a team, like the way I do it, I help my people find their people. You need an estate planning attorney? I got you. Where are you located? North Carolina, Raleigh? Okay, I'll get you 3 names. You need resources to make sure that you're doing it the right way.
And I think that's just so important to bring up, because a lot of people always think that they don't have enough, that they want to be talked to, because it's never enough. And that's the thing, is you don't need millions and billions walking in. Nope. You just need to kind of come in, have the conversation, and really just get started, which is so important.
If you're coachable and ask questions, because so many people are trying to do the right thing. I have a doctor and a professor I work with, and I'm so stupid. No, you're not. This is just not your bag. I wouldn't know anything about my internal organs. I don't know anything about programming a computer. I know nothing. Does that make me stupid? No, it's just not my jam.
Exactly.
Ask questions. Yeah, get the support so that you're working hard to save. We just have to tweak and make sure that we are being very, very intentional with what we're doing, because we'll get a better outcome.
Definitely. Yeah, it's all about stepping up and having really that conversation, which is great. And let me see if I can whip up another question for you quick. Let's see what we got. I don't know. You covered it all so thoroughly. But I do appreciate this. This is not a topic people talk about a lot. How you can actually save a lot of money. It doesn't all have to go to the government. And you could really just increase, having that money work for you is so important as well. Not just saving money on taxes, but then having that money work for you.
Yeah, you work hard. Your money should work just as hard, if not harder.
Definitely. So I appreciate you coming on today and sharing all this wonderful education. Please, anyone watching this, feel free to reach out to Maggie at youralchemist.com. She also has this wonderful book. If you reach out to her, can't see it.
Can you see it? The Power of Zero.
Power of Zero.
Awesome book. Again, reach out. I will send it to you. We can have a conversation.
Awesome. That sounds great.
It will blow your mind. And it's an easy read.
We love that. We love an easy read. This has been a great year doing all these Facebook Lives. I think we're done for the calendar year, since it's holiday time coming up. But I appreciate everyone tuning on. We'll be here again next year, and that's very odd to say. And so thank you again, Maggie, and we will all talk soon. So bye.
Take care.